For decades, America has tried to combat the harms of drug use primarily through banning drugs and incarcerating people who use them. But this has caused a violent underground market for drugs, increasing crime in our communities. It's caused contaminated substances, increasing overdose deaths, and it's caused incarceration to skyrocket, destabilizing families. What we're doing isn't working. Crime, death, and broken families are the collateral damage of using the criminal justice system to address the public health issue of drugs. If you're looking for a better path forward, you're in the right place. What if we changed our drug policies to prioritize life, health, harm reduction, and thriving? And what if it benefited all of us? Our criminal justice approach to drugs had a beginning, and it can have an end. Join us on the journey to end it for good. I'm Christina Dent, your host, and if you're new here, End It for Good is a nonprofit started in 2019, based in Mississippi, that invites people to support approaches to drugs that prioritize life and the opportunity to thrive. This podcast is one of the ways we do that. You can head over to episode 34 to hear my story as a conservative Christian foster mom, changing my own mind on the best path forward with drugs, and then come on back and dive in deeper. I didn't change my mind overnight, and most other people don't either. We all need time to learn, think, ask questions, and explore. Whatever your perspective is, I'm glad you're here. Let's journey together. Welcome back to the End It for Good podcast. I'm Christina Dent, your host, and really excited to have a quick conversation today with my friend Brittany Denson about Recovery Day at the Capitol. Now, we're specifically going to be talking about Recovery Day at the Capitol in Mississippi because that's where we are. But stay tuned and continue to listen, because our hope is that one day in every state there's a Recovery Day at the state capitol during their legislative session that celebrates people in recovery, people still looking to find a path to recovery, and that all the rest of us can attend also, that want to see a world where more people are able to stay alive and find a path to recovery that works for them, where we're able to prevent more addiction on the front end. It's an event for everyone. So if you're in Mississippi, come join us on January 22. We would love to see you. You can find out more about that and sign up at enditforgood.com/events. And if you're outside of Mississippi, you can still go there and you can pay it forward to provide a meal ticket for lunch for someone so that we can scholarship that for somebody. And no matter where you are, we hope that you look for ways to give a voice in the public square for people who are in recovery, and for people with lived experience. And that could be at your state capitol. It could be at your church. It could be at your school. It could be at your social club, your Rotary Club, or wherever it is that you spend time. We would love to see more people have a chance to talk about their story in a way that is supportive and is also educational for a lot of other people who may not yet understand what people are going through and what it takes to live in recovery. So with that, let's get into it with Brittany. So excited to be talking to Brittany Denson today and to hear some more of her story. And we're really excited because Recovery Day at the Capitol is happening in Mississippi, where both of us are located. And if you are in another state and you're thinking, man, I sure wish there was a Recovery Day at my Capitol, you can make it happen. All it takes is somebody saying, hey, I'm going to do Recovery Day at the Capitol. And you gather some friends together and stick it on social media, and it can be as little or as much work as you want it to be. And you can be up there. Your elected representatives love to have people from their districts come and visit them at the Capitol. And it's not something that they get all the time. And so it's a great thing. We've found in Mississippi, legislators are very interested in being part of Recovery Day and wanting to support recovery. So it's a great thing. It's a very positive thing. They often get lots of people complaining about things they're doing or not doing. So going just to celebrate recovery and helping more people stay alive and find recovery is a really great thing. So we're really excited about that. So we're going to talk about that because Brittany and I are both working on the kind of planning committee for Recovery Day at the Capitol. But first, we're going to get to know Brittany a little bit. So Brittany, welcome, and help us get to know you a little bit. Why do you care about recovery and Recovery Day?
Well, it's so much of, and in 2019, I'll say this, my friend Angela Mallet had invited me to I guess the first one that ever happened. And when I attended, she held my hand and she told me to come into the Capitol, and I got into this big room that was in the rotunda, and my mind was just blown. And the reason that it was blown is knowing, so me and Angela actually went to treatment together. We were roommates. And to see the change that she was doing, and I don't so much want to put her on a pedestal, but I just could not believe that an addict like her, me knowing where she came from, was making so much change. So, forward into that, I guess for me, I've had 10 years of freedom, so to speak. It's been 10 years since I have been in my addiction. And slowly but surely, I started seeing doors opening from that day. I met a lot of people that I was able to share my story with, and they became real interested. And I had, during that time, I was actually working at the treatment center, Friendship Connection, that I had graduated from. And working in that environment, again, it continued to open up doors. People started telling me about the peer support specialist that Mississippi Department of Mental Health was offering, and started with that. And then I became a peer support, and I have been working in the field of recovery and advocacy ever since. And but Recovery Day, it was simply people inviting me to show up and support. And little by little, I've learned that there are more issues surrounding some of these things that I feel like deep down inside. I'm like, I know I can make a difference, but I have to educate myself on the governmental side of things, which slowly but surely, it's been really interesting figuring out that there are like legislative bodies that actually care about a little old junkie like me. And I'm just so grateful that I continue to show up. And if you see me anywhere that involves anything about helping people to recovery, in recovery, you're going to see a community of women behind me that are trying to learn the same things as I have. So,
And what was it that helped you so much on your own path to recovery? What were the key components of that have helped you live in recovery for the last 10 years?
responsibility. It had been so long since I knew any kind of responsibility. So I grew up with I guess, unfortunate childhood. My mother had left, and I won't go so much into that. But I grew up an unfortunate child, so I wasn't taught responsibilities like I was supposed to. And I might sound biased because the the miracle in my life that has happened is that I have worked for the places I have received services from. That is Friendship Connection, Hines Behavioral, and Grace House for Women. And I have I've had the opportunity to work for Grace House for Women for the last 5 years. But with saying that, after treatment and become a client in that program, it was independent living. But they didn't have this financial pressure on me. You got your own apartment with some roommates, and I mean, that's pretty much where it all started when I had to clean and cook for myself. Um, I'll give a little transparency. There's a lot of people like myself just learning just simple tasks like remembering to brush your teeth every day, so it was really hard for me to learn those responsibilities, but I owe it to programs like Grace House for Women.
And that is, so it's Grace House Sober Living?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for people that are not as familiar, there is kind of inpatient treatment people can go to. There's outpatient treatment they can do. But then if you're inpatient, when you get through with that 30, 60, or 90 days, or however long it is that you're in treatment, it is not good to just go straight back home. You really need more support as you keep putting those tools into practice. And so a sober living situation, a sober living home of some sort, can be a really helpful thing. And just like with all treatment, not all sober living homes are created equal. There's some that are not great, and there's also some that are really great. And so just like there's some treatment that is not great, and there is treatment that is really great. And so that's helpful. And I think it's also helpful what you pointed out, for people who had very involved parents who taught them all of the responsibilities and all of the, I think about just all of the small things as I'm parenting my own kids that you're like, oh no, you can't do that. That's not how that works. Or no, you've got to, like, how long it takes to teach your children small things, how many times you're reminding them, how many times, it just feels like, oh my gosh. So if you take that piece out of it, I think for a lot of people, it can feel like, well, that's sort of like people just sort of automatically know. You just kind of know how to manage a home. You just kind of know how to manage your finances. You just kind of know how to take care of your health and all of the things. But that's not the case. Those are all,
Right.
if we know those things, it's because somebody has been teaching us those along the way. We
Right.
might not have even realized that that's part of what we were getting in our childhood. We thought it was just sort of normal life, if you had a home where you were getting that. But if you don't, that's lots of learning in those formative years that you have to learn then later, at a later time in your life. And so having that opportunity to do that, and the space and the compassionate people around you to help
Right.
you through those kinds of things is just really, really important. And I love that you mentioned that, and I love that you're part of that for other women now who are also on the same path.
It's very bittersweet, for sure. For
So
sure.
why are you excited about Recovery Day? I know we're both very excited about it. But what is it like, if people are listening, or let's say they're seeing something on Facebook and they're like, I mean, why would I like go to the Capitol for Recovery Day? I can just sort of quietly celebrate recovery in my home. Why is it that you would want people to kind of take that step to say, no, I'm actually going to go?
The first thing that popped in my head, and I use this a lot in 2025, I'm a savage in the best way possible when it comes to advocacy, because I think whenever you show up in bodies, like, people start to really see that, okay, these people are serious. But you have to get the proper uh, information to them in order for them to understand, because I'm so firm about a person who has struggled with addiction helping another person who has struggled with addiction. I know that people can really, really try to understand addiction, but if you have not lived that, I think it's false pride. And I think if we got more people at the Capitol who have experienced these things, and I know that you've experienced it because you fostered a woman's child, and that's just another beautiful story. And we need people to show up. That way, people like you who actually take on the effects of changing policy and everything, because that House Bill 1137 was, I mean, I'm still mind blown, and that made such a huge difference. I mean, I've already passed out probably 1,000 and something Narcan since last summer.
And that bill, for those who don't know, was a bill that expanded the access for Narcan to be given out, which is the overdose reversal medication, to be given out in far more places than it was previously allowed to be given out in Mississippi. So I think Brittany and I would probably say, if you've got a life-saving medication, that should be everywhere for people. And yet it wasn't. It actually had gotten harder and harder to get. And so that bill allowed it to be widely distributed back into the community again, which is awesome.
Right. And I have so many other nonprofits that are willing to actually get it from the State Department of Health, and just be able to get it in my hands, because I mean, anytime I see a law enforcement officer, I ask them if they know what it is, and they don't know what it is, and then I get the opportunity, and 9 times out of 10, they're like, yes, please let me put some in my car. But I mean, just something as simple as that. And but for people like you who have that information, can actually take those things and make a change out of it, and just having the support and the bodies there, I mean, I don't know, it's about support and advocacy for me. And I want to support things that make Mississippi better and give more opportunities for people who struggle with their addiction. Substances are substances, but when you are a recovered person and you have healed from addiction, you actually end up experiencing more death, because of the people that you've met along the way. There was a young lady that I know who used to just drink alcohol, but at some point in her life, she found fentanyl, and she initially overdosed and died a few weeks ago. And I just found out about this, and it burns my soul that even with the opioid settlement funds, that are going on, I guess just with all that, it's like being able to show up in spaces and not know why I'm showing up, but just showing up, and just being able to have a conversation and have one that comes from the heart. And but with year 2025, I met with a lot of law enforcement officers, and the amount of officers that want to have a solution to the homeless, mental health, and substance abuse problem, because some people are making it just a homeless person's problem or unhoused person's problem. But, and I know there's some separation in that, but at some point in time, they have to understand that it is a trio deal, and, um, and
But
the,
mental health and substance use and homelessness often are
yeah, yeah.
all present together.
And it's sad because the more that, just that in particular, like the people of authority is making it into issues that aren't really the issues. And the way that these law enforcement officers bring up drug addiction, like this isn't a homeless issue. Even they know that it's not just a homeless issue, it's a drug addiction issue. But I don't know. There's just a lot of compassion with a lot of people that I've met who haven't experienced that, even from a family member or friend. Um, and they really, really sincerely want help, and they really, really want change.
Yeah.
I live here. I was born and raised here, and I think that's a very special thing. And I will say that it's very sad that there are people that get to make decisions who do not reside here, and they think they know what's best for our city. So, but I do appreciate the ones that are actually making a change.
Yeah. Um, I just wanted to highlight what you said about, when you have been involved in substance use and particularly in addiction for any period of time, you're likely going to lose a lot of people around you, and that has really struck me over the years of doing this work. Of, it's substance use is always about something that's going on underneath, a deeper pain underneath that the substances are helping to cope with, and the tragedy that people who have already experienced a great deal of pain, are already struggling, are also the ones who are losing so many people that they love and care about, in a way that probably those of us who are not as directly impacted are not feeling quite that level of people lost, which just increases the amount of trauma and pain that a person is trying to deal with as they're losing friends and people that have been part of their life in a really tragic way that kind of ends up working out. One of the things that I love about Recovery Day too is just being able to hear the voices of people who maybe have not had the opportunity
Yeah.
to kind of speak in a way that can be heard in a more public way. I think for a lot of people who have struggled with addiction, that sense of voicelessness, that, I've kind of lost my voice. Either if you've had criminal justice involvement, that experience of losing your voice is very real. But just in general in society, the way that society stigmatizes substance use and people who are struggling and or have struggled. And so one of the things I love about it is just that, at the press conference, there's always, there's people there's elected officials and there's people from, the health department or wherever. But then there's also just people who are, have lived this experience and are sharing their hope and their stories. And I really love that part because I think it is a tragedy. It makes me sad to think of anybody kind of losing their voice, losing the ability to say, hey, this is what's happening to me, or this is my experience, or this is, the things that will help me or are helping me. And so often, especially with substance use, we kind of like just pretend like people don't know what it is that they need or what it is that would help them. And we just kind of treat them like they're toddlers and say, no, we're going to force upon you what we think that you need. And that is generally not helpful. People don't tend to do very well being forced into one thing or another. We just have kind of this like automatic reaction against somebody else saying, I know what's best for you and you're going to do what I say. That's just kind of human nature to be like, no, you don't. And I'm not going to do what you say. That's for all of us, whether or not we have struggled with a substance use disorder.
But I also love the people who don't have much experience, like get so interested in it, and then the questions that get asked behind stuff like the recovery day. I've gotten so many text messages and thought, I'll tell you, there's so many people who want to spend the night at my home because they live out of town, and I get asked that every year, and I just can't provide that. Provide room and board for them.
So if you're listening to this and you own a hotel, we need your hotel. We need some donated hotel rooms so that we can have a place for people to stay so that they can come from other parts of the state. And you can get there's a 3 or 4 hour drive, even in Little Mississippi, to get to the capital for a lot of people. And a lot of our population centers are along the edges of the state. And so to get here it can be a bit of a trek. So anyway, yes, but I love that too. And it's always fun to see. This year we're going to have a map of Mississippi and little pins for people to put in like where they're from. So we can just see where people are coming from all over the state. So this will, Recovery Day at the Capitol in Mississippi this year will be on January 22. And you can find out more about that at enditforgood.com/events. If you could tell loved ones of someone who is struggling with an addiction, if you could tell them something, what would you want them to know?
That there is help. There are people who want to love them until they learn to love themselves. And I guess what I know today, if I knew today what I didn't know then, is that it wasn't so hard to get to a place with peace and joy in my life today. But there are so many people who are just boots on the ground, so to speak, just ready to help people recover from what they think that they can't recover from.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your work in that world, Brittany, and helping more people find a path to recovery and helping with things like Recovery Day to make it public, where we can talk about it, bring it to legislators, and really encourage them to think about what are the policies that they are supporting or not supporting. What's going to be the impact on people who are struggling? Is it going to help them actually have a better opportunity to find recovery, or is it going to just increase difficulty in their life in a way that makes it even harder to recover? So I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And do you want to talk about the meal tickets?
Oh, yes. Let's do that. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Well, I will be front and center when everybody wants to eat. Lunch is provided by Half Shell Oyster House in Madison, Mississippi. And they have been funding this for the last, or sponsoring our meal for the last 3 years, and extremely grateful. So there are meal tickets on the events page. And if you want to sponsor somebody, just go ahead and add another meal to it. So
Love it. So thankful for Half Shell and their generosity in making this possible to have a delicious lunch as part of Recovery Day. I just had somebody ask if it was a family-friendly event, if they could bring their wife and their child, and I said, absolutely, very much. What a beautiful thing for a child to see from such an early age, that we can talk about hard things and we can celebrate people who have been through hard things and who are walking in recovery. And this is not something that we need to hide, but it's a thing that you can experience as a family. So bring the whole family. We'd love to see you January 22 at the Mississippi Capitol, and we can't wait to celebrate recovery with you. So how do we shift our drug policies from a criminal justice approach to a public health approach? By inviting one person at a time to change their mind. Changed minds are the catalyst to changed laws. But many people are only willing to have this conversation when they're invited to by someone that they trust. That's you. Invite your friends, coworkers, other people in your circle of influence to consider a better way. At End It for Good, our hope is that people who hear will become people who tell. Start a conversation and join the movement to end it for good.